Hi, this is Mark from CharkBait again. What we're going to do today is revisit a video that we did probably close to 10 years ago and maybe do a little better job with it. Technology has advanced on our Spectra rigging, standard Spectra rigging. We're going to use Avid 30. We're spooling up for one of our clients in Florida. We'll be doing your standard long-range style Spectra to mono connection. So, first off, what we like to do before we lay down the line is add just a little bit of stripping, which is something we're doing more the last couple of years, putting down a little bit of paraffin on the spool itself, and then we do a base wrap of a flex wrap material that's a non-absorbent tape, backing tape. The wax will help prevent corrosion to the spool. And then secondly, using the base wrap gives the Spectra something to dig into, so the line itself doesn't rotate on the spool. And then after laying out about 500 yards of Spectra, we'll go ahead and do a Bimini, 30 to 40 turn Bimini on the Spectra, and then we will do a reverse Albright, making the loop with the monofilament, wrapping the Spectra around the mono, another 30 to 40 lines of that, and then finish up that top shot. So that would be the standard long-range connection of a Bimini to reverse Albright, and that's something we've been doing for 12, 13, 14 years now. It's a knot that does very, very well, that tests well, and if done properly, is pretty close to being idiot-proof. If it's done improperly, it doesn't work. And I will say, sometimes I've frustrated the staff that works here a little bit. That's the way all of our connections come out of here, unless we're doing a Sato connection or we're doing a splice or some of the fancier stuff. Even on the light stuff, we'll do a standard long-range connection. The reason for that is that what I've found, and we have a good $2,000 to $3,000 line test machine that we use to test these connections, and I've demonstrated it to the folks that work here, and so basically everyone's a believer here too. That connection works well. There are some other connections that are done on the boat sometimes, some other connections that people may use for lighter lines that are easy to tie, like doubled up uni to unis, cat's paws, a few other connections, but when push comes to shove, last thing we need from something that's being shipped out of here is a line failure, and that's the reason why everything, even if we're going down to 15, 20 pound line, is going to go with a standard long range connection that's well proven, it does well. Okay, first thing we do is a paraffin base. So take the arm over, we've got a reel, drag is set, and we'll spin the spool. That's about as much as there is to that. Just a little bit of a paraffin base, and then we'll do the backing tape. The nice thing about the backing tape is that this material is non-absorbent, and so if you do get penetration of water through the line, and again, Spectra is non-absorbent, so that isn't an issue, but if you did have some immersion of water, this would not hold that water, which is a plus. So backing tape has been applied. Now we'll tie on the Spectra. And at this point we're prepared to begin the spooling. I'll go ahead and spool. You don't have to watch that on video. We'll bring the Spectra up. In this case, these fellows getting 500 yards of 80 pound line, and then I'll show you the connection to the Bimini, and then we'll do the Albright. Okay, we've laid on our base of the Spectra. We've got 500 yards on. On our winder, we also use, it has a brake system as well. We put a glove to it, which gets things pretty hot, because if you're going to be fishing a reel like this, expectation is 20 to 30 pounds worth of drag. You better spool it on with similar amount of drag. Otherwise, the Spectra will dig into itself. For cutting the Spectra, you can use a good pair of channel lock dikes. We typically use on the Spectra some scissors. These are ideal scissors from Jerry Brown. And to do the Bimini, like to give yourself several feet to work with. Okay, we try and make our Biminis real long so a person can get probably 3 reties or so before they need to redo it. 3 reties with the mono. So I give myself a good 6 feet worth of line to work with, and please excuse the camera work on this part. But what I'll do is basically, with the Spectra, I make a loop. And what you do is turn the line. A good 30 times, 30 to 40 times. After having done that, now comes the tricky part. And as we said before in the video, you have to get into your knots. And so here, basically I'm going to use my legs to spread the loop. And when I hold my tag end here, perpendicular to that, and I begin to spread under pressure, the Spectra will wind up winding on top of itself, just like that. Alright, if you can make this one out, maybe we zoom in a little bit. It might make life a little easier to do that one. Let's see if we can do this. Okay, so I'm coming off here perpendicular. My line is down below on my legs. I spread my legs a little bit, and now I've doubled up. See how that works? It's very tricky. And then, basically, I'm going to make an overhand knot on one leg, overhand knot on the second leg, and here there can be some variance. Some people do it different ways. Basically, on each leg we have a knot, and then we'll do another overhand knot on both legs. And at this point, we have our Bimini. Okay, next up comes the reverse Albright. And for this one, what we'll do is simply make a loop with the mono, and then we'll take our Spectra. I like to loosen this out a little bit first. And we take the Spectra, we put it up through the mono. Give yourself plenty of line to work with. And now we're going to make our wraps. And again, we go 30 to 40 wraps. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And then here's the bit of a catch. We want to make sure, I'll zoom in a little bit, we want to make sure we go in the same way that we went out. Or no, yeah, we go out the same way we came in. So I brought the Spectra up through the bottom. I'm going to take the Spectra on the Bimini back through the same direction. And you can see how it's coiled. And now simply we're going to draw everything tight. As you can see, having both teeth and legs are very important in this operation. So we pull it tight. You can see the tag end of the line. And now again, we're just going to do a triple uni to finish off that part of the connection. Pull that part tight. Again, teeth come in handy. And snip off your tag. And we have ourselves our double line Bimini to a reverse Albright. Clip off the tag end of the mono, and then we're good to finish up our spooling. Now this connection will work out very, very well. We'll test well into the 90s. Also, as far as knots go, the Bimini is something that a lot of people maybe don't use. but an Albright is a great knot for connecting lines of dissimilar diameter. So some of the guys fishing heavy, tying on some heavy mono or fluorocarbon, good knot to know. In the case of mono, you can get by with only probably 10 turns. If we start working with the Spectra, we like to be more conservative and go ahead and bring that up to a good 30 to 40 turns up the line. So I'll finish up the spooling and we'll test the drag and then we're good to go. Okay, at this point, the Spectra's done, the mono's done. Just time to test the drag. Now, flip off the line, and what we'll try and do is make a loop on your line. You can have someone else hold it, or you can go ahead and use another sort of brace. In this case, we're using our same line winding assembly that we had before. I've got a loop in the line. Go ahead and bump the drag lever back up to where strike is. Now I'm going to come off my drag a little bit from where I was for spooling, because again we want to spool the Spectra under basically a real hard high amount of pressure. This probably has a feel that's a little bit too high, but I'll double check that using a spring scale. And the spring scale in this case is one that's had a lot of miles on it. This is a Profisco scale. So here's one that's packaged out. They're available in two different tests. One up to 25 pounds that shows the increments a little bit shorter distance, and the other one it's up to 50. I'll use the heavier scale for this particular test. And go ahead and hook that into the loop, and then we want to give it a good pull, like a fish would. So, get her set up, and give it a strong pull. And in this case, we're pulling, this is 25 pounds worth of drag, which is a little bit heavy because we're working with 60-pound mono. Probably I would want to set this up more like 20 pounds of drag, so I'll back off a little bit. And you can see here we have measurements along the side. Nice thing about this scale, it also shows us 25% rating. This would be appropriate for 80-pound line. It would be appropriate for 60-pound line, set at 33%. So we'll give it a couple more pulls, get that zeroed in for 20 pounds, and then this reel is good to go. So that's how you do a Bimini to Albright or reverse Albright long range connection for your Spectra and mono.